Hey, it's morning again. Coffee. Yay. Okay. So, as I get older, if you haven't noticed, well, most of you don't have never seen me before. So, the ones who have, I never had long hair in my whole life. The COVID thing provoked me not getting a haircut, and suddenly I said, gee, that's different. Okay, fine. As I get older, something happens at night. I get in bed and I go to sleep like that, boom. And I have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, no big deal. I get up, go to the bathroom, and I get back in bed. But then Mr. Brain decides that he's going to do theoretical development of a thesis of some kind or another. If it was just free-floating thoughts or things that bug me, you fall asleep, big deal. But no, Mr. Brain really, literally digs down into subject matter and gets analytical. And it's interesting. I mean, it's interesting to me. I don't care, how smart you are or how much you know or don't know. Your own reality is real to you. If you think you're thinking something that's profound, well, to you it is profound. Except back in the 60s, everybody was smoking marijuana and it was like, oh, well, man. And then in the morning, they're like, gee, that was stupid. Okay. But here's what happens. I have a hard time sleeping after like 3 or 4 in the morning. And I'm having like chamomile tea. I kind of like the flavor. But I get up and I look at the computer, and here's what happened. Last night, this happened, it's morning now, right? Meaning last night was before this morning. And I got up, and the woman who somehow lives with me, happily, I think, she gets disturbed that I'm not sleeping that well, and I tell her don't worry. It's not like a problem exactly, because I'm thinking really good things, and bear with me. Okay, so I'm on the computer. I'm drinking my chamomile tea, and I'm on the computer, and I go into Facebook, which is like, oh boy, that's probably not a great idea, because Facebook is like a free-range insane asylum with billions of people running around telling everybody else what they think and fighting over often nothing. But I brought up a meme, and it was by Aristophanes. Aristophanes was a Greek philosopher. He lived in the time of Socrates, and they lived at the same time. I printed it out. Here's what happened. As I was looking at the computer, the one gets up and comes down and says, you really should come to bed. And I said, yeah, I know, but I was just looking at this, and I read it to her. I said, here, this is something by Aristophanes. And it was a meme with this, his Greek sculptor picture of himself, because they didn't have cameras. They sculpted things. And if you've ever picked up a sculpture, marble, anyway, here it is. Youth ages, immaturity is outgrown, ignorance can be educated, and drunkenness sobered, but stupid lasts forever. And first thing I'm thinking is, I doubt he really wrote that. Okay, someone wrote that, but I doubt it was Aristophanes. Besides, it would have been in Greek. Okay, so the problem is, when I look at memes or quotes or dicta or famous sayings, I often disagree with them flat out. I don't disagree. So the problem is, either I don't disagree personally, or I look at them saying, there's too many exceptions for that to be a rule. And then I'm like, that can't be a rule. So I was looking at this one, and I thought, youth ages. Well, that's obvious, because I told you, here I am. Look, But nobody knows this, but I was 40 years old when I was born. But still, I've aged, right? Immaturity is outgrown. That, I am very much the same as when I was a child. And they call it immaturity. I have other words for what I am, but I'm often called immature. I don't want to argue about that. It says ignorance can be educated. There's no doubt. I've spent my life researching and digging down and trying to figure out stuff, because I love finding out about stuff and finding out what facts are. Not truth, mind you, because truth is too relative. Everything is relative. Everything is relative, which too bad Socrates didn't realize that. So I get to the idea of ignorance can be educated. I agree. And it says, and drunkenness sobered. And I thought, well, I don't pursue drunkenness. I have been drunk on occasion. But what I pursue is a little buzz from a scotch or a bourbon after a long day's work. And then, of course, the last thing is, but stupid lasts forever. Can't argue with that. So I read it to the one, and I said, have you ever read Aristophanes? And she says, yes, long ago, which most people read the classics when they were in school. She said, yes, I have. And then I was thinking about how if you try to express yourself on the internet, there's always one or two or more people who come charging in to attack you when they don't even understand what you said, or they're taking it in a different way. And what I imagined was birds, like crows, coming down on you like, ah, 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 and you're being attacked for nothing. And I told the one, I said, that's the analogy. And then I said, I have a memory. And it came back to me. In 1967, I was in Tucson, Arizona, a little apartment or house, and across the street from the house was a playground. And I watched the birds that night. I had watched it when it came out in 63, and several times thereafter, and then I watched it again that night in 67. When I woke up in the morning, I went to the front of my apartment and I pulled the curtain back. The jungle gym across the street was filled with crows. I was like, what? And I closed the curtain and I told the one, and she laughed, and she said, I think the play by Aristophanes was The Birds. And I went, what? Because I love koinkydink and irony. I had never read The Birds. I didn't even know The Birds existed. And she asked, and I said, why do you ask? She said, I think he wrote a play called The Birds. And I looked it up right there. He wrote it. So The Birds and Alfred Hitchcock and Aristophanes and the jungle gym across the street filled with crows. And I was like, my mind was blown. And I said to her, isn't that amazing, koinkydink? And she goes, yes. So the end of the story is simple. Most people don't recognize koinkydinks, or at least they go by. And a lot of people, when they recognize them, they think it's ironic or interesting. When I experience a koinkydink, even if it's a minor one, it kind of blows my mind. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.